Good morning,
Or
everyone.
maybe I'll.
You're doing such a good job of muting yourselves as you come in. It's very cool.
I was just gonna say also, do we have? It would be nice if everyone's videos were on so we can see people's faces. And then after they introduce us, should we quickly introduce ourselves and get everyone to introduce themselves quickly?
We can. That'd be
Hello,
nice. Hey, Jenny.
Jenny. I love how you spell your name.
You're muted, though. Just so
Oh
you
yeah,
know.
and you're muted, but that's okay.
I'll fix it.
Yeah.
Usually I'm the one that spells everything wrong, but you know.
I was making you comfortable.
Oh, that's so kind of you.
I was just pinned for a moment there, but I unpinned myself. I don't know why I was pinned. Okay.
Annette, you had mentioned you might want some help with the, oh, she's on the phone. You mentioned you might need some help with the breakout rooms. Is that the case, or have you worked it out?
We won't know
I think
yet.
we won't know until we have everyone here. I mean, it is 10:30, so I would give it a couple more minutes just to make sure we have everyone here before we start. But once we start, then we'll know how many rooms, I guess, we will need. But I don't know if, so we're four, and there were 26 people registered, but there's only 12, 16, or 14 people so far. So I don't, at the moment, we wouldn't need more than 4 rooms.
I was just gonna mention, I don't know if it's gonna make our names like super long, but I was at another conference and I noticed some of you guys were doing it. It'd be super cool if you had your name. You can keep your last name if you want, but it'd be so cool to see what temple or at least city you're from or something like that. Be after your name. That would be super cool.
Some of them have it.
Anyways, I just wanted to mention that. So I'm gonna just update that so that it shows at least where we are.
Me too.
I think it was super cool to see, like, now that everyone's on Zoom, everyone's from everywhere. So if you want your pronouns there too, you can. You don't have to. But that would be super cool.
Yeah, naming's getting a little crazy. You put your temple, you put your pronouns, you put whether you're tech or chat.
Yeah, so I'll just keep it simple like that.
Oh, Jackie got the first cameo. Your husband walking through there. It's always funny to see like the real world that exists behind us.
Yeah, I can't do backgrounds. My computer's, it says doesn't support it. And I'm reluctant to buy a new computer just so I can get backgrounds on Zoom.
I think, can you blur yours like Judy has? Judy Stair from TAS North. Anyways.
Yeah, Judy and I are the same temple.
Oh, cool. Bunch of friends.
What I really need is a green screen.
Yes, those are handy. I think that we can start. What do you think, Mary?
I think so. I think let's do the intros. I'll share my screen. If you guys have any issues or whatnot, either put a reaction, put up your hand, or just message in the chat. I do have my chat window open, so I'll be monitoring that. If in case while we're talking and you have like something, you notice something or just have a question. And then we can go from there. I'm sharing the screen.
I'm going to go ahead then and introduce our wonderful speakers. I'm Carol Stoller from Vancouver, Washington, at the south end of Washington State. And I am pleased to introduce our presenters today from the north of us, up in Vancouver, BC. This is Annette Kozicki and Mary Kleiner, and they are from Temple Sholom. Both of these women have served their congregation and sisterhood for a long time, including being co-presidents of the sisterhood, starting a Tot Shabbat, teaching and helping in the religious school, and being involved in many other ways. Both are juggling caring for their young children, working in their family businesses, as well as making time for volunteering. You may have heard Annette's lovely voice at the beautiful Havdalah service she helped lead last week for the Pacific Northwest Free event. And we're going to hear it again later on, the end of this today. We are so glad they've made time to be here with us today. Welcome, Mary and Annette.
Thanks, Carol.
So I hope that everyone's an old hand at Zoom by now, but just in case there's some newbies, let me go through some of the standard Zoom things. What I find the most useful is up in the right-hand corner, there's a little thing that either says view, or if you click on it, you can put it in standard, side by side, or gallery. And I find that very helpful when I want to see the faces, but I also want to see the slides, because if you have it in one of the side by side modes, there's a little bar between the pictures and the screen where you can move it side to side and make the PowerPoint smaller and show more of the pictures, or you can show fewer of the pictures and more of the PowerPoint slides. Then next slide, I remind everyone about the chat, that you can put things in the chat, and go on to the next slide.
Mary,
I think the next slide is just all about the chat. So, right, so if you have questions, put it into the chat, and Carol Stoller will be monitoring the chat. We'll introduce them at the appropriate time. And also, if you have technical questions, then put those into the chat and I'll help you out with that. So, with no further ado, I'm going to turn on record if I can. Oh, no, it is recording.
Yes.
Good.
Okay, so let me just, I was going to message this to Jackie, but Eve, if you could hear us, I think we don't see your face, and then you're not muted. So sometimes I pick up something from you, but if everyone else is okay, oh, there you are. Wonderful. Okay, so our agenda, we'll get started. Just to give everyone an overview of what's happening, we're going to talk about how we went from surviving to thriving. We'll kind of did some introductions. Annette and I will introduce ourselves, give a little background about ourselves and our transition. Then depending on how time is, which I think we will have time, we'll just get everyone to do just your name, synagogue, and maybe the position that you have at your shul. And then we'll talk about, our surviving aspect, our thriving. How did we set our goals? How did we let go of concerns that we have? We'll go into our group discussions and then have a question period and then just wrap it up from there. So to introduce my wonderful past co-president with me is Miss Annette Kozicki.
Good morning. I'm Annette Kozicki. So thank you, Carol, for introducing us. We just wanted to tell you a little bit about ourselves and how we started with Sisterhood and give a little bit of background. So when I started, here we have some pictures here. This is my mom in the corner, and she was president of the Sisterhood of Temple Sholom when I started. I had just moved back from living abroad for 10 years and didn't have much going on as a social life or anything. And so I started getting involved with Sisterhood, and I started the knitting club, which is why there's a little picture of knitting there. And from then, I started to sit on the board, became a trustee, and then I a co-VP of marketing. and communications. And really, as the first kind of younger, the first of a younger generation, you know, a lot of the jobs that I had were the social media jobs. So I started our Facebook page and our Twitter account, and I think it was Mary who started our Instagram, but I started that ball rolling and getting us into that next kind of generation, which I'm sure probably you guys all are, but I think it's really crucial to have positions for younger people, as I'll get into later, that have, you know, that they're really good at. It's good for all of us to learn, but it's good to have people who are really good at that. And the last picture is our choir, our Sisterhood choir, which is really where a lot of the sisterhood bonds are made. There's lots of different programs that go on, but the Sisterhood choir are true sisters. And so Mary and I always sang in the choir together and just, you know, solidified our sisterhood. Thank you. So that's all I said. Yeah, that's all about me, I guess. Yeah, we'll get into more. It goes back and forth. So Mary, you're up.
Okay, so I'll mute myself. So yeah, we thought, you know, giving you guys a visual kind of helps you a little bit so you're not staring at words all the time. But you know, here's me always being pregnant every 2 years. I love baking and challah. I used to do just lots of seasonal theme, you know, shapes of challah, whether it's Rosh Hashanah or, you know, we recently had the holiday of love. And then I would like give it out to everyone. Of course, during COVID, that kind of like stopped. There's a little picture of me and my family as is now. We are expecting our 5th child. Don't ask me why or whatever. We just have lots of kids. But the most important picture I wanted to share here was this one here with all the kids. And there's Rabbi Dan and then Rabbi Brown. And as we go through all of this, we'll talk about relationships of how you thrive and what are the challenges that you might come across. And I thought this was a great picture because one of the reasons why I think our synagogue thrives so well is because of our relationship we have not only with the rabbis one-on-one with the families, but also with the office staff, the clergy. And I think that was a true turning point in the last maybe decade or two, because once upon a time, and I'm sure maybe you guys have experienced that, you may not have a good relationship, and then the support doesn't go both ways for that. So more history. I am a Jewish convert. I converted in 2011 when we had our first child. And then I said, you know, what the heck, if I'm going to be a role model for my children, I really should know what it is to be a true Jewish person. So I said for my adult bar mitzvah, 8 months later, which I lined up with my first daughter's parsha. So then we would have shared the same parsha. A little planning in between that. And we were really active members. My husband and I, we went to every single Friday night. Then I had my second kid and we're like, okay, we can't really like do like newborn and toddler running around Friday nights. So, and we had moved away. And so the transition here, which is part of some of the programming we have, is that I kind of got upset. Like we moved away and then we stopped going to shul. And then I go, well, what's the point of going through all this? Now we're not even like active as we used to. What's the point of this? And so I kind of then like re-looked at it and then had a conversation with my husband. Said, okay, well, let's go to Saturday mornings and see how that is. We've never gone to a Saturday morning, and let's do a self-commitment of trying to go to every single Saturday Shabbat morning services. And then we did actually. And then from there, because my family was there all the time, and then we had another family, which was our Jen Jaffe, who's the president of the Sunday school. She usually comes to just like do some work to prepare for Sunday on Saturday. And so she brought her kids, and then Annette brought her kids. And then so that kind of grew into the child minding program that we have. Then I wrote a proposal to the rabbis called Bridging the Gap. So bridging the gap between newborns to the 5-year-olds as they transitioned on Saturdays to Sunday school. I joined the Sisterhood choir, which Annette mentioned is really where the gel happens for a lot of us. And then from there, of course, they poached me or asked if they wanted me to be a sisterhood trustee, and then kind of went from there. And then 2 years later, actually at the same time, I was asked to join the temple board itself. and then the Sisterhood board, and then the next term I was on the executive board, which I'm still on the executive board now. And I think that's also, we'll talk about where that relationship of having some Sisterhood members a part of the temple board, so there's a full unity there, I think really made a difference in our transition, but we'll talk about that. So Annette's going to talk about the background of our Sisterhood.
Do we want to do background before we introduce,
Oh, yeah,
people introduce themselves?
that's right.
Or, I
Yeah,
don't
so
know.
let's do, yeah, you're right. So let's, we didn't put that in the slides, but let's,
No.
do you want to do that, Annette? Call on names and then they'll
Yeah, do
introduce
you want to
themselves?
stop sharing for a second and so that we can
Yep.
see everyone, please? And then,
There you go.
you know, if you're comfortable, yeah, so I'll just call on everyone. So, well, we might as well go through everyone. Carol, you kind of introduced yourself, not very much though, let's just have a quick.
Only other things I can add is that I'm an area director for the Pacific Northwest Sisterhoods and a couple in Northern California as well, and have in fact been quite involved with our own sisterhood, and I'm a past president there.
Awesome. And which sisterhood is that?
Kolami Women of Reformed Judaism in Vancouver.
Right. I love that. Great views. It's beautiful. Jackie?
So I'm a member of Temple Ahavat Shalom Northridge, California, as opposed to the Temple Ahavat Shalom in Florida, where I've been past president. I'm currently tech chair and honey chair and probably a couple of other minor stuff. And I'm WRJ Pacific District Treasurer.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Next I have is Diana. You're muted though. It's okay. Everyone does it. Hi, Diana.
Hi, I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico, Congregation Albert. Currently, I'm co-manager of the Judaica Shop, but I have been fundraising and I have been treasurer and I'm a past president. Also served on the district board for a while. So
Amazing.
yeah, so I'm real excited about this workshop.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Ms. Ellen Bick.
Hi. Oh, Annette, it's so nice to see you. And Diana, too. Some of these people I've known for so many years. Okay, I'm Ellen Bick, and I'm from Portland, Oregon. And Judy Levy is, hello. I'm a past district president and have met a lot of people all over our district during that time, and all over the United States and Canada. So, you know, whenever I hear people say, you know, that national WRJ, I go, no, it's North American. But I am on my sisterhood board as an advisor. And one of the reasons I'm in this workshop is because succession maybe and membership to me, you know, the bedrock to keep your sisterhood vibrant.
Absolutely. Well said. Thank you so much, Ellen. All right. The next person I have is Barb. Hi, Barb.
Hi, I'm Barb Kish. I'm in Tempe, Arizona, Temple Emmanuel. So right before COVID, when our nominating committee was getting together, I was a director. And we realized that our executive vice president was not going to be able to step up to be president. It was a very tough discussion. They got her to personally realize that if she hadn't been in an event in a year, she couldn't be the next president. So yours truly moved up. So I'm the next president. Then COVID hit. And so we all decided we'd keep our jobs for one extra year because COVID hit. So now I'm the next president in a year and we've got nobody to come up behind me. So I'm like, guys, give me ideas because, you know, everything we're trying and COVID's getting harder and harder. And so we need to find some new people to move into our board. So I'm looking to you guys for advice.
Yeah, you can't do it all yourself. Thanks, Mary. All right, Jenny. Jenny Glickman-Ryan, co-president.
Hi. So
Hi.
I had the wonderful opportunity to try to fill Mary's very large shoes. And I am now Annette's co-president. So I'm here to hear what they have to say and to get a review of what we've been doing. So I've been around for quite a while also. And I think my job on our particular board in part is to represent the old guard, to provide that kind of continuity as the younger people who are largely our board at this point take over what's going on. And it's been an interesting process and a fascinating journey. So that's what I am.
Thanks, Jenny. All right, Lori Schneider. We'll interrupt your knitting for just 1 second. Can you unmute yourself, please, Lori? Lori, can you unmute yourself, please? Sorry, we can't hear you. There we go.
My computer was not cooperating. I had it all set to unmute and then it wouldn't do it. I'm sorry. I didn't know you could see me knitting because on my screen it doesn't show. But
I am knit, like an eagle eye with that.
Yeah, I knit during Zooms.
Always.
And then stop to take notes, but it works. Anyway, I'm president of Women of Beth David and Beth David, Westminster, California. This is my 3rd year as president, and I have served on many, many other positions through about 40 years of Sisterhood membership. So, and we were Sisterhood until a few months ago, and we just got the board. We've tried a few times, but the board has slowly changed. And we finally got the board to agree to align with Women of Reform Judaism and become Women of Beth David. So we use both names, but we're trying to modernize.
That's awesome. Good for you. Thanks, Lori. The next person I have is Sharon.
Hi, I'm Sharon Rogoff. I'm co-president of Women of B'nai Israel in Sacramento, and Eve Panish is the other co-president. And I admit I'm the one, I was Eve's vice president for 2 years with the understanding that I was not going to take on presidency. And Eve very graciously said, okay, because her term was technically up, we couldn't find anybody else. And she said, we'd be my co-president. So that's where we are. We're finishing up our 1st year. So we have 1 more year and we're trying to figure out where to go from here. And again, I have to say, Eve has been very, very gracious.
Well, we all have to be, don't we? We're all volunteers. I'm glad, though, for you. Thanks, Sharon. Sue Meyer.
I'm with Kolami Women of Reform Judaism in Vancouver, Washington. As we follow in Carol's footsteps, I'm co-president. I have served as president in the past, and we had someone who served as president for just 1 year, and then after COVID and everything else, decided she didn't want to fulfill, the second part of her term, and so a past president and I stepped in, and we feel like once things are back in person, we can get more people involved in things, but it's, it was hard. We did a lot of programming during COVID on Zoom, and some people were anxious and participative. You got a few new people, but a lot of people just zoomed out, especially younger people who were also working. Yeah. And so we really didn't feel like it was a good year to be recruiting new people just because you didn't have the personal connection that that comes with being able to be more in person. So yeah. I look forward to our discussion today.
Great. Thank you so much, Sue. All right. The next person who's up is Judy Stair. Hi, Judy.
Hi, everyone. I'm honored to be in the presence of so many presidents. I am not president. I've been with Temple Ahavat Sholom in Northridge probably for about 15 years, most of that time on Sisterhood. So I've had like 5 positions. I think I'm in my 5th. I'm also chair of the Social Action, Social Justice Committee, and we definitely do need new people. I won't have to be on the board if I'm on the nominating committee, because that's how our temple works. But really recruiting people to replace involves both membership of getting new people in, and it also involves an eagle eye and establishing relationships out there. So it's good for social justice, social action, and it's definitely good for sisterhood. So I'm here to learn.
I love that. That's awesome. That really speaks to a lot of the stuff that we did. Cheryl, can you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. I am also from Temple Ahavat Shalom, and I am the Sisterhood president. I'm actually co-president. And Judy is my education VP. And Jackie is our jack of all trades. She just does everything. In fact, Jackie is the reason that I am president, because she probably solicited me for about 4 or 5 months before I said yes. We have a system where we have co-president for a year, a person who acts on their own for a year, and then co-president again for someone who's incoming. And right now I am on my 3rd year out. I'm going to have to be the head of the nominating committee to find someone to be co-president with our current co-president, and I don't know who it's going to be. We have a dearth of qualified people. I was thrilled when the person I recommended for co-presidency this year accepted. She's amazing, and I'm really thrilled to be working with her, but I don't know where we go from here, and I could use all the help I can get in finding someone. So that's why I'm here.
Totally. Awesome. Thanks, Cheryl. All right, Judy, you're up.
Levy?
Yes, please. Is there another Judy?
Just
sorry.
Little quick sidebar. I'm a special education teacher of 20 years. I'm a strong advocate. I'm Rabbi Devorah Marcus's bossy woman. And I like to say I'm an advocate. I don't want to say I'm bossy, but I am. And I'm a strong person, just so you know. And I've done everything both at Temple and for Sisterhood for the last 15 years. My husband and I are very involved. And the problem is when you're asked to do things over and over and over, then no one else gets trained. And so I'm an enabler. I enable my special needs kids. I need to break that cycle. I need to recruit new Sisterhood members, and I need to get them trained, feeling welcomed, and being welcomed is what it's about. And my sidebar is when I was Sisterhood president, I went, Alan, was it 2012 or 2013 in San Diego? 2012 to my first convention, super excited, got there so overwhelmed. My area director was busy in the choir, never got together with her, met a Sisterhood from Northern California, invited me to lunch and dinner. I mean, I was alone. And there was this lunch and I wanted to go. And I forgot the name of the lunch, but I was just standing like deer in the headlights. I looked overwhelmed, and I'm not a person who gets overwhelmed. And this lovely woman came up to me, introduced herself, Ellen Bick, and sat me at the head table with all these people. And I'm like, this is like being at the superintendent's dinner, you know? And to me, that was everything. Go to Shabbat, welcome people, go to religious school, hang out, meet people. It's all about welcoming. And that's kind of been our focus for Sisterhood, is to just always be there for women. We have a lot of non-temple members that are in Sisterhood. We're very inclusive. It makes it harder for succession because our temple bylaws, when you're a Sisterhood president, you're on, you know, the temple board, you have to be a member of the temple, and you have to be Jewish. And we have a lot of non-Jewish, lovely women who we embrace because we're inclusive. So a lot of challenges ahead as I really try to give support to others and give new leadership. We're in that
challenge.
We're out. There's no one left for next year. We're out of people we know.
Well, bylaws were meant to be rewritten, so maybe.
Well, my rabbi's not going to do that because
for the
I didn't know
Sisterhood?
I was born Jewish in my family, and I converted 15 years ago. But my husband and I have been married 34 years, and we always had a Jewish home. But Rabbi made me go through this process. I love the process. Then it turns out I'm a Marano Jew. My dad's family tree, and my sister sent me a book. So
cool. Well, thank you, Judy. Okay, well, the next person, oh, she's still connecting to us. We have Eve and Marcia, who are both off of video, and then
We have a Michael Bell, but I'm thinking that's her husband's computer. If you want to rename yourself, that would be amazing.
You can introduce, we're just going through quickly introducing ourselves and telling everyone what temple we're from, what sisterhood, if we hold a position on the sisterhood.
Eve, you're muted. You can either hit the space bar or hit the unmute button.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Sorry, I just came back from walking the dog before it gets to be 100 degrees, you know.
Right, so hot.
So anyway, so I got to get the dogs out. So anyway, I'm Eve Panish, co-president with Sharon Rogoff, Congregation B'nai Israel, Sacramento, Women of B'nai Israel. And I guess my problem is I really never was involved with either the sisterhood or really the synagogue until I retired due to kids and jobs. So I become retired, get involved with sisterhood, become president. So I don't have a lot of history with, with either the synagogue or the sisterhood really until, relatively recently. And so now we're trying to recruit folks, and I guess it's frustrating because I'd say probably 95% of the people I ask, either on the phone or in person, say no. So it's just been very hard for me to get people to step up. I think that's my big issue.
It's a tough first question. I wouldn't lead with it. But
I know, I realize that. I don't lead with it, but it's like it's still even not leading it, but calling folks up, seeing what they're doing, blah 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 blah, and then no person, it's just not in the cards for my friends and people I know. So it's been really difficult, and I think that's my biggest problem is I just feel like it's a lot of rejects. I feel like I'm on the dating game and it's not going well for me.
Well, hopefully we'll get some good ideas brewing here.
Yeah.
Thank you, Eve. Evelyn, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Evelyn Bell. I'm from Temple Beth Tikva Sisterhood. I'm the president, and I've been president. This will be my second term. I'm supposed to be leaving on, I think I got till the 2023, I think, June. It's a 2-year term. So I'm keeping my thoughts on replacing myself. My board is full of past presidents.
Yeah.
And I have only one member who is not retired, working very hard in the medical field, and she is head of our tributes. And so she is in no position to take over. So we're trying to recruit, and it's very difficult. We are kind of all burnt out here.
I hear that. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Evelyn. Marcia, are you there? Would you like to introduce yourself? Going once, going twice. She's making coffee. Okay, so let's continue. Thank you, everyone, for introducing yourselves. Mary, would you share the next screen, please?
I will.
Thank you.
So here we'll have Annette talking about background. I might jump in a little bit. I've been taking notes a little bit behind the scenes with kind of what you guys have been mentioning.
Yeah.
But hopefully we'll cover all of that. So Annette, off to you.
Thank you. All right, so a bit of the background where Mary and I stepped in as co-presidents. So just before that, there was really, as you can see here, this is a picture actually of our board right before Mary and I stepped up as co-presidents. There were no new faces.
In the background, Annette's probably nursing Skylar, her first daughter, and I'm pregnant in the background with another child, but
Yeah, our hands were full. And there was, like it says, there was an increasingly bigger gap that was being made in the sisterhood. And Mary and I were really the only people less than 60, younger than 60 maybe on the board at that time. Board members' average age started around, when they started, they were around 40 and 50, like a lot of women. They were, done with raising little kids and they were able to start getting involved. They were at about 60 or 70. And so because of that, we were dealing with this sisterhood that looked like it was for old people. It was like, it's not your mom's sisterhood, but it was our mom's sisterhood. And it was tough. So because we were on the board, with that in mind, with having young families, we started this child minding Tot Shabbat. Really, Mary started it. And we turned it into something a bit bigger because I became song leader. And so we really started to lead a service. It went from a Tot Shabbat where it wasn't a Tot Shabbat, it was just child minding. We were just in the library and parents would come and go into the sanctuary from the library. And it was this young families group that really started. We became very close. We spent most Saturdays together, and it progressed into a service, into this Tot Shabbat service.
And I wanted to mention too, like in transition of this child minding where like parents and kids were just hanging in the library, we kind of then, as the kids kind of got older or had older siblings, we kind of set a suggestion to the older kids. Okay, before this starts, everyone has to start off in the synagogue. We stay until, we do the Shema together. We stay until Sur Israel, and then you sneak off to the library, because at that point they're just like 20 minutes in. It's a lot. And then they go have their snacks and whatnot. And then we started this, I don't know how it started, but we did this hakafa, the sweetest, amazing tradition that we have. It is so beautiful. Where all the kids will line up with Torah stuffies and march around with the Torah, and then they sneak off. They sneaked off. And then this is where Annette really, I'm going to brag about her, really her skills really came into set here, where then we did a story about what the parsha was about, and then we sang some songs. And then that from there really developed into like, okay, let's do a mini service with the highlights of the prayers that these young kids should really know. So now when they're coming to shul, it's just not a bunch of kids doing daycare in the library. So I do want to add that. And then that kind of transitioned to the last point on the slide, which I'll let Annette talk about.
Right. So exactly. So Sisterhood was sponsoring the child minding. Sometimes it was Mary that was bringing food, really. My mom would bring some goldfish crackers. But really the point of that is it's not the Tot Shabbat. The point is that this young families group was really started. And it was the beginnings of where we would go with our board. So in 2018, our Sisterhood Executive Board had a pivotal meeting, right? So our president at the time, due to health reasons and stress and really not having the support of any of the board, stepped down. And there was, we had to step up. Important decisions had to be made, right? We had to take over. Otherwise, the Sisterhood would just die. And neither Mary and I were really ready for it. But like many of your boards, everyone had been president already, at least once, and no one wanted to do it anymore. And we were at this pivotal moment where it was either let this sisterhood die or take it over. So we decided to be co-presidents. Yes,
I remember that meeting very, very well. Like it was yesterday. We all sat there. Jenny was there, and we go, look, like what's going to happen. And I want to mention that a little bit. This is where we decided to do the co-presidency, where we realized, being on your own, there's so much to do, and you don't get the support that you need. You don't have someone you could bounce ideas off of, truly kind of share the aches and pains and the joys, but really the hard decisions of what to do, and have someone back you up on that decision. When you run solo and you're transitioning, and let's say you want to make a lot of change, which I think in this situation, the change of this recent person that was stepping down was making drastic changes, which was needed, but it was almost like she was the sacrifice person for this, for our sisterhood to switch over, so that the older past president crew or board would have to go, like, we have to let go. And I think we were very lucky that that had happened for Annette and myself to step into this role, because then it wasn't like a hard change on us. It was a hard change on her, which she took the hit for us, which we thank her every day for. And then it allowed Annette and I to kind of switch over. So
before we go on to that, I just want to say as well, when we started, I saw, the ex-president didn't have a lot of support. We said that. But it was kind of a trend before that. I know when my mom took over, you know, she felt very undermined a lot of the time by the president, the previous president before her. And there was a lot of like presidents still trying to run things after they were not presidents anymore and not really being able to let go. That stuff we'll talk about later. But it was a beautiful thing when Mary and I took over, because that would have been really scary if we hadn't had the support of everyone, but we did, because it was such a desperate time. We really had the support of all of these women who were, you know, 10 seconds ago at each other's throats. But, you know, when we took over, they stepped up as well with their support. Mary, you're frozen. Uh-oh.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay, I'm back. I think I hear you. Do you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, sorry. So yeah, my internet's been a little wonky with our provider lately, so I apologize if I cut in and out. If not, Annette can amazingly carry on. I do want to mention that, you know, that last slide there, strong-headed, motivated leaders to take over. We did make it very clear, look, if Annette and I are going to be taking this over, like we are taking this over. We also, I'm not going to say slang or horrible swear words, but we did not care. We made it clear that, look, if we're doing it, like we're doing it. And so when we had that executive meeting, they're like, okay, like, it's time, and you guys are the right two people to do it. It was a great transition.
Uh-oh, she's frozen again. A great transition. I wonder if I should be sharing these slides instead. There you're back.
That was coming in. So anyways, let me know if I'm still kicking out or not, but it looks like
you went out for a second.
Got it. Okay, so then now let's talk about the surviving aspect. Like, you know, how did we survive through this? What were our goals and whatnot? So here's a little cute picture of my first convention or area day. This was San Diego, like pre-COVID, you know, 2 years ago. For those that were there, you were probably like, who are these two crazy women that flew their whole family down? And literally that was the only way that we could come. And we made it very clear with the people that were coming with our family. And that was the only way we could do it. And I think, you know, luckily Annette and I are the way we are of not caring about a lot of other people's opinions, which in a good way. But I think that's something that you have to find someone that has a tougher skin that can be like, I'm not going to let this upset me. Really helped us during this transition. So again, our primary goal for the first year was to survive and to maintain the current programming that we had during this transition, because we literally took the position right before high holidays, before all the programming had started. We relied upon the support of the current Sisterhood board and of course the temple office. We have a really, really, really good relationship with them and meet often with, not often, but like, you know, dialogue with the rabbis and also the executive director. During this transition, Annette and I held one-on-one meetings with each board member to ensure we heard what their goals were and to make sure that we weren't stepping on anyone's toes and making sure that we were very respectful for, I would want to say in this case, the older generation who was on the board, or I guess like key people that were involved with Sisterhood that were not on the board. Like for us, I'm going to throw a name out like Sarah Chachi, you know, or someone like that. As someone that has not been on the board, but is a very key, important person that if certain things change, like her feelings would be really hurt or whatnot. And then I love cooking and baking. So we, you know, throw food at it and everyone will show up, right? So because we were there every Shabbat and our families were there, our menu kind of changed a little bit with Kiddush lunches. And then we kind of made like, you know, we don't want to just stand around and nosh. We want to sit down and relax, which then doubled the length of stay after services, which was allow people to mingle more. The synagogue, you know, realized like, wow, this is amazing. And then, you know, we started doing sponsored Kiddush lunches and that expanded on a benefit, not only for, you know, Sisterhood, but for Temple. Then we had lots of multi-generation like connections. So like, you know, we had the Bobbies would bring their grandchildren instead because they were watching the kids that they knowing like, what am I going to do with my grandchildren? I'll bring them to shul. You know, there's tons of kids there. Or, you know, we had the transition of young family dinners, which was the overlap between Sunday school families and then just making sure like the bubbies were involved. And we got the bubbies involved because they were the bubbies in Sisterhood trying to help us mesh these worlds together. So that was really nice. Then, and then of course, like I mentioned, with the support of the Temple office, they developed like more better programming and split the younger kids to like a junior Tot Shabbat kind of dinner on Friday night, and then a junior congregation, which is like the school age grade 1s to 5s that kind of like don't want to clap and sing, you know, bim bam all the time. And we kind of structured that for that. And that was a really good churning point for us. Then through that, we naturally started building relationships. So I believe, I think it was Judy was talking about that, about how do you build those relationships. Annette and I were involved in a lot of things, but because we were involved with our children's programming, used our bubbies or our grandparents to help us tap into these other groups and events, and got to know their children, which was our age group of young parents. And that kind of allowed them to be more comfortable, because at this point too, Annette and I were not really vocal people in the synagogue a lot, but you know, people knew of us and Sunday mornings and Sunday school and how we were involved. When they heard that we were transitioning into this position, it was almost like a relief to the other women in the synagogue, saying, oh, like now this might be cool. Like now I'm not hanging out with my mom or aunt, and I could be hanging out with my peers. So that transition alone was like 2-year transition to really get us to this point. So don't think this is going to happen overnight at all. And then so now this transition that we have this group, and that's going to talk about how we started through programming, you know, transition to the thriving aspect of things.
Exactly. So we knew that our first goal had to be programming. How do you get people to come to anything if you're not offering them something? So we had done a retreat. The previous president, the last thing that she did was did a great retreat that talked about, we got a lot of information about what kind of programming people wanted. And we learned that people wanted social events, they wanted religious learning, and they wanted social action. So that gave us a great start. So Mary started a monthly ladies' night out, which was a huge hit right away. A ton of people, we got a ton of new members out of it. Also, just before that, it says our opening and closing events. Our opening event, which you'll see in a second, was it has always been a great attractor for members, and you'll see why. And so those two programs alone started to bring in a lot of traction. We started to get a lot of attention for it. And we did a major fundraiser that year. Also, we wanted to just mention this. This doesn't really have to do with succession, but we think that all sisterhood should do this. So I don't know if any of you do this, but the donation button. On every single registration that we have for any program, whether we're charging for it or not, we always have a donation button, and it always says, would you like to donate? And we have every single program that we have had has paid for itself because of that donation button. We have made more money on that donation button than probably, except for our major fundraiser, which we killed this year, but that donation button has been
And sometimes it's $18, amazing. Sometimes it's $5. Some people pay a little bit more, but just like that extra, and especially when programs aren't being charged for, even if it is, like and it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's like $200-300 that we collect
every time. It's
every
amazing.
single time, and that totally already covers our expenses, which then saves our budget and allows us a little bit more freedom every single time, not to be dipping into our projected budget. So that saves us a little bit. I do want to quickly mention here too a little bit about like what do people want and do. So one thing, because I was sitting on the temple board, and my huge thing always, for those that know me, is I love to welcome people. I love to get to know new people, because I was in that position before as not only a convert and then transitioning to all these groups. Like I had nothing. That it was kind of my mission to engage with a lot of people. So we pulled that into the sisterhood a little bit. So then I was then asked the shul to give me a list like who are the new people that joined that have women in general, regardless of age, their name and contact, so I can be part of the welcoming committee of the synagogue. And because of that, we would say, hey, welcome, tell you a little bit about myself, and then just let you know we have these programs. And then we would bring these names to the Sisterhood board from the temple board to get people to reach out to these people saying, hey, we have this event, come for free. Don't charge them, come for free, get to know people. And then we would reach out maybe for the first 6 months and then kind of let them go. So that was also something we did.
Yeah.
Okay.
The last thing on here is just we increased our social media. It's important. Social media, as we all know, is crucial, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. I don't know about Twitter anymore, but Instagram definitely is where we should all be. We should all have a presence, and our newsletters. And I know a lot of you have really great newsletters. I think I still get the Portland one, but yeah, newsletters are important. Easy to read.
Before we go to the next part, and I do have a little bit more to talk about. What time does this session end? I know we are.
It's 11:45 or 11. It's not 11:30, is it? That it ends.
11:45. So we have about 15 minutes. So, you know, Annette, could I fly through the next section really quick? Because then we won't waste too much time on that. We did Ladies Night Out. I'm going to fly through this just so you guys can see. Everyone will get a copy of the slides. I just don't want to tap into our discussion session too much. But this was our first Ladies Night Out. You'd see there's different age groups that came out to each one. Bowling was a hit. We did dinner out to wine tasting to the bottom one, which those escape rooms. That was super fun. We did our opening event, which was Sippin' in the Sukkah. A huge, beautiful spread. It's nice, not romantic, but like it's, you know, nice outside and, you know, spending time. That was our opening event. We always have a big Shabbaton weekend, as we mentioned, with the Sisterhood Choir, where it's a all women led service for the whole entire weekend with a special guest that comes in, female, of course. And then that kind of transitions into our Fall Fest. It used to be called an Autumn Fling, which was kind of, you know, it was great. They raised like $10,000-$15,000 every single time. But when
live music and an auction, a sound auction.
Yes, and that was always a key component, something live entertaining and with some sort of auction. But when Annette and I took over, we said, look, we got to revamp and change it so it's kind of the same but different. So we called it the Fall Fest Fundraiser. And the first year for that, we thought, okay, how do we get young people there? So our trick, in this case, our motive behind it was to find young temple talent in the synagogue to get them to come and perform, pulling in the younger generation and then their families, which would have been our generation and your generation, to come support and watch these younger kids perform for us. And then we had, you know, Israeli dancer, and these are all people that, these are their skill sets that we pulled in, and it was successful. I think we raised $7,000 or $6,000 off of this one.
And we didn't, because we didn't have to pay anyone as well, because it was all temple talent, which is amazing, amazing talent to begin with.
Yeah, food was donated, and we made it very clear, this is what our mission was and our focus. Then, of course, COVID hit, and so we went virtual. So what did we do? We did an 80s theme magician theme. At this point, we didn't want to be boring, and we wanted something interactive with the people on Zoom, so they weren't just sitting around doing nothing. So this guy was amazing, fully interactive, amazing. We raised like $10,000 off of this one from Zoom. We were really, really pleased with that, not thinking that we would hit anywhere close to that, but we did. We did an online silent bid.
Yeah, if any of you want details about that program, because it's amazing, we're happy to give it to you, because we won't give all of the details of it now, but it's an amazing program.
Yeah. And then at the end of our year, we also do the installation for our new board. So we try to do different themes. We want, one year we did a cheesy, which was the theme because it's Shavuot. And then we also had a comedian come in to follow up on the cheesy theme. So trying to find those themes where you can really pull it through food, entertainment, and everything made a huge turnout. We also did a taste testing for the winner of the best cheesecake maker, and Jenny won, I believe. And then, there was a whole cheese plate platter gift that we gave out. So that was that. So that really helped us in that transition. And so I believe this is my section, setting a goal. So just set goals, annual small goals that you guys can hit. Go, what is truly our issue and how do we do that and execute just that really, really, really well, and then reassess. Don't overload your plate. Don't, go crazy on those aspects. So our first goal was survive, get those programmings out, make sure everyone is happy in the Sisterhood board. There will be a lot of behind the scenes transition that you do, but as at least outwardly, that you take care of those needs, especially those have been in the Sisterhood for so long and they don't feel outcasted. So like when Annette and I wrote our introduction saying, hey, we're so happy, this is our goal. And we made it very clear. We sent it up to everybody at the synagogue saying, this is Mary Annette, we're co-presidents. This is our goal. We want to increase programming for the young people while maintaining and respecting, and we literally wrote that, while maintaining and respecting current programming for the current demographic, so that it didn't feel like, oh, we're coming in and we're just going to toss all your programs out the window and start our own thing. Made that very clear, to be really respectful. Through the programming, somehow, Lila from the Canadian Jewish News caught word somehow and kind of labeled as the badass sisterhood, because we had like axe throwing and all these ladies night out events that were really out of the norm that we strategically picked to pull young parents out. So it's almost like a mom's night out kind of feel. And then we knew ahead of time that our goal for 2020, which was last year, was start mentoring these young family moms that we have built such strong relationships with and get them into the Sisterhood board, because there was no way around that. So again, like I mentioned, that was like a 2-3 year transition. And this is really their first year on the board, actively being in their role. So we've literally flipped our board now. We have maybe 1 or 2 older people or, past president people on our board. And so far, so good. So learning to let go is a huge thing. So through these new programs and past boards, and not trying to push people out, but giving the older board generations an opportunity to step away. A lot of you will probably agree that part of you want to step away, but you just can't. And so it's also up to you to be like, I got to let go. So that's one aspect of letting go, is that you have to let go. Whatever happens will happen. Whether the sisterhood dies, I guarantee you the love of the just people in the congregation, someone will step up. So if you don't go, no one can take that spot. Don't assume that no one's going to want that spot. Someone will. Give that opportunity. Let those seeds plant for the year of nothing happening. It will be okay. And just then really getting to know who your other support systems. Annette, because she's involved with the school, was really good with the Sunday school and Marvi, the younger teens groups. So we made it a goal that every year Sisterhood would be involved with one affiliated program with the synagogue. Seniors lunch, something, so that we were either co-sponsoring with them with an event. So they're like, hey, Sisterhood's here for you in any aspect that you need, from any age, from a little girl to daycare, child minding, whatever, to, something else. And like I mentioned, prepare to let your sisterhood die, or else you got to let that go. And then also letting go of policies, names, structures, anything can be adjusted. And we are at this, post-ish COVID phase of what are your pronouns? You don't call it a master bedroom, it's a primary bedroom, like things like this. Lots of terminologies is changing, and we have to be open to integrate that. So looking at those structures will be very important. And then what I think Annette and I learned most out of these transitions is, of course, letting go of your fears. Don't cast your fears on other people. And then allowing yourself to rebrand. We thought about, should we be called Women of Temple Sholom, or keep it as Sisterhood, or have a different demographic and split the 2 groups, let one die and let one continue. And we said, it doesn't matter. I think it's the people within the group that matter, and fostering those relationships and diving deep and being hopeful and very optimistic, even though it's going to be a gong show and nothing's going to work out. It's going to be okay, because change is good. and always remember to respect the past and take risks so you can explore those options. And I think that is the biggest takeaway you can take out of this, is just, you got to jump. And then here we'll transition to Annette. She's going to talk about the group discussions, and we'll split up for, let's do 10 minutes. So we have a few minutes to come back, if that's okay with everyone.
Okay, well, I think that since we have 4 questions, we should just split up into 4 groups. And then there's 4 facilitators, which is super easy.
That puts, I would suggest 3 groups, because
perfect.
Because then we'd have 6 people per group. I think it'll get a little, it'll be a little leader heavy if we do 4 groups.
Okay, let's do 3.
Okay. So go ahead. I'll call you back in 10 minutes.
Okay, yeah. So let's just, you'll automatically split into your rooms. So just make note, and you know what, I'll just know
put it in the chat. Can you put it in the chat?
Chat for everyone.
Yeah.
And if not, then one of us can hop out and take a look at this, and then go from there. So I'll pop into the chat so you guys can see it. And then let me get a presentation mode so I can copy and paste this. And then just whatever group number you are, then that's just the number.
Yeah, let's just do 1, 2, and 3. I think the 4th one was a bit of a repeat of a question anyway, just rephrased.
Yeah. All right, so there it is. Everyone should have that. So 1, 2, and 3, and then that's the group you guys will do.
Okay, see you in a room.
Connection. Oops. Okay, let me start that again. Our question is, what are some ways you can build your connection with your temple? So as you heard, we thought that was a really important part of the strength of our sisterhood, was our connection with our synagogue, because we didn't have it before. We didn't really get into this before, but our previous rabbi was not the biggest fan of sisterhood. He wasn't a fan of the URJ, therefore the WRJ, and it was really tough. And so we were always kind of at odds with the temple office, always. And when he left, everyone was very tentative about, starting to bridge that gap. But Mary, because she was on the executive board, really, really pushed for it. She pushed and pushed and pushed, and that's why we are a lot of where we are today. And we have a new staff. Our executive director is such a huge fan of sisterhood, and it always says, how much she appreciates what we do. All right, that's all I'm going to say. So we are brainstorming, but let's just, I would just like to ask, does anyone here not have a good membership with, as a sisterhood, not have a good membership with their clergy or office?
I just want to say we are at Temple Beth Tikva getting new staff in the office. We just got a new young lady named Tammy, and we've been working with her. We've been dealing with Shul Cloud and all this nonsense that it's just been very difficult. In my presidency, I felt we needed more strength, and we needed a more connectivity with other organizations in our temple. We have a very small group of younger people, and most of our members are in their 50s, 60s, some they're aging, and they have older children or college age children or grandchildren. So what we thought would be fun was having the men's club and the sisterhood combine forces. That way we get activities that you know, hey, I want my husband to come to this. Oh, this is really important that my husband would know. Or, you know, my grandson would really enjoy that, you know, just get more activities in a whole.
Yes.
And so we did poker tournaments, some mahjong tournaments. We've had just recently a wonderful program for a paid up membership for both Men's Club and Sisterhood, the Zodiac Deli. We learned all about American delis, and we had a comedian storyteller talk about it and with slides, and we had a deli lunch, and we had a ball. This is the first thing that we had this year, which we had 43 in person and about 13 on Zoom, and it was very popular. People are still talking about it. That was last Sunday. Okay, so
Nice.
but this is how I've been dealing with it. I'm a very energetic person. I was coerced to become president because of my
Those jobs out. Jackie, that's so funny. Sorry, I have the names blocked. It's Sharon. You had a little, what's going on with you and your temple?
Oh, I mean, I'll be real brief. So, I mean, we have a very strong sisterhood. We have 220 members. And, you know, we're in the process of trying to figure out how to get younger women involved, et cetera. But our rabbi, who is a very strong-headed woman, is not for whatever reason, a fan of our sisterhood.
Yeah.
And our sisterhood we are flush with money, which it's our money, it's not the temple's money. And so we are seen as the purse. You know, maybe women of B'nai Israel will pay for the Wi-Fi, you know, so we tend to pay for things, but we just don't get the recognition from the rabbi, which is huge, because that is how people, excuse me, I got something in my eye. You know, that is how people at temple, you know, filters through the rabbi. If the rabbi's a proponent, that, you know, that whole thing.
Yeah.
So that's something I struggle with. So I think what we're going to have to just do is sort of bypass that. I mean, I think that's just the way it is. I don't think she's not going to come around and love us. So we're just going to figure out our own ways to, you know, attract younger women. And I like this idea of, you know, working with other groups, maybe, you know, co-event, that type of thing. So that's it.
Yeah. Well, good. Yes, Jackie. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. We have a new rabbi, just been with us for a year, and she didn't have a strong sisterhood at the temple she came from. So we're still kind of establishing our relationship. We had a little bit of trouble with the rabbi clerical staff, clergy staff, just deciding, oh, sisterhood is going to do that without asking us if we were going to do that.
Rude.
This is not new to this rabbi, though. This has been long-term problem with it. But I do want to say that we had a somewhat of a problem in that the rabbi said, we're not going to serve wine during oneg anymore. That, you know, it could be a problem with kids coming up and taking it, and it could be a problem with alcoholics. And we were like, no, we're serving wine. So we were trying to decide what to do. And I said, what you want to do is whenever we're at services, there's no wine. So whenever someone comes up and says, oh, no wine, we say, tell the rabbi that you object to this, right? The board went, no, people won't do it. That's not what we should do. But that's what happened.
Yeah.
People complained to the rabbi. And when enough people complained to the rabbi reversed herself. So if you don't have a good relationship with the clergy, I would say solicit people who are like just peons just congregants to kind of say, hey, you know, we should do this thing that sisterhood wants to do, or, you know, isn't it great that sisterhood? So, you know, kind of put that out there, and that it certainly made a difference in our case. And then the last thing I wanted to say is that we had a very successful Zoom fundraiser a year ago where it was a talent show, and we got the kids to do a lot of the talent. And so their parents showed up, And we split it with the religious school, and it was one of our most successful fundraisers. We raised like $2,000 for each of the religious school and Sisterhood.
That's great.
So
that's amazing. That's the bridging. That's so beautiful. I love it. What about you, Sue Meyer?
Well, when Sharon was talking about, issues of getting recognition, I go back to what I learned from Alexis a million years ago. And that was marketing, award-winning sisterhood, using those kind of phrases, and also to do an annual report card of your successes and the things you contribute to the community. And so we've been doing that all along, because you need people to know what your sisterhood is contributing. And word of mouth doesn't do it, and writing little articles doesn't necessarily do it, but kind of summarizing it or saying as often as we can, I'm like, oh, and those bistro tables in the social hall are from WRJ. Oh, so just kind of keep dropping it so people know what we do.
We have a ramp in our sanctuary that the sisterhood put in, and it's always, if my mom is at services, the rabbis always call it the sisterhood ramp. That's funny. Okay, well, we have 2 minutes left. Marcia's there I don't know, Marcia, did you have anything that we didn't really do much? Well, we did a little bit of brainstorming. I don't know. I just want to say, oh, we can hear you, please.
Yeah. I just want to say we have a new rabbi, and we're really looking forward to working with her. I had a meeting with her. I'm the religious practices chairperson. Had a meeting with her last week, and we set up a schedule for 3 different activities. We're going to have or a study or some kind of a study program Saturday afternoons once a month. We're going to have a sisterhood service, which our previous rabbi wouldn't let us have for 10 years. So we're planning on doing that again.
Amazing.
And we have, with our cantor, we have a lunch and learn type of luncheon on Shabbat where the cantor leads us. We did it once before the COVID started, and we didn't do it, of course, any longer. So those are the 3 things that I'm doing as religious practices chairperson. But we're looking forward to working with this new rabbi. And
awesome.
Last Sunday, we had a wonderful gathering at one of our ladies' amazing house. It was all outdoors.
I'm going to come in. Is everyone back? I would like to share this point with everyone. Let me just pause. Okay, so a conversation we had was Judy said they have money coming in, no issues. Checks are being sent in. The challenge is the people. And so I said, look, if you have money coming in and it's the people, then throw money at them. As in, pay the extra for the little things. Make sure there's always food and wine. Up your kiddish lunches. Give them whatever food you want. Like you gotta entice them for something. But because our demographic is about probably 70% older generation who will, knock on wood, be leaving us soon, our synagogue at this point is at a transition of really pulling in a lot of young programming. So if you have the money, hire a young programmer that works on engaging for tapping outside of synagogue walls. So our goal is always, how do we expose ourselves outside of our synagogue walls to get these young members to come to our cool, vibrant synagogue. So one thing I was saying is we're very lucky to have 2 young rabbis that have young families. And that was a hot attraction already for them to be motivated to grow the young families division. Our Sunday school literally tripled like over one year. We are running out of space to have kids. We had to do an A and B session and thinking about, all this stuff. And so if you have the money, look at how you can entice the younger generation to slowly come in, because unfortunately we have to start thinking as a whole, not just sisterhood, as a synagogue, how do we replace ourselves income wise? Because guarantee you, in less than 10 years, those checks won't be coming in as hard. So you have to think, how do we invest this money into these people now, and also invest the checks that are coming in now for the generation that can't afford to come in? Because, Annette and I's generation, we're busy working, double income, all these programs expenses are super, cost a lot. So they won't be writing the same amount of checks coming in. So that's something for you guys to think about too, is that money won't be there in 5 years. How will you handle that? So I'll leave it as that. Another highlight ours was what kind of multi-generation program will you have? They mentioned they had like some tea programs that ran for 5 years and then kind of died out. It's okay to let a program die out. Remember, keyword is let it go, bring it back in 3 years, because then it'll be like, oh yeah, I remember that. That was super cool. And kind of do that. So it's okay to let it go, bring it back later.
Exactly. When people miss something, it's good. And then it also encourages other people to do it. Like, this is something that we talked about, is that, you know, all of us kind of take these jobs on ourselves, but really it's about letting other people take these jobs on, because no one wants to be a part of your sisterhood. They want to be a part of their sisterhood.
What group are you, Annette?
I was number 2. We talked about connections with Temple. So we had a lot of people talk about their relationship with their rabbis, their clergy, some of them not getting the props that they deserve. And, you know, Sue Meyer kindly brought up, you know, what my mom used to always say. She was a huge bragger of the sisterhood. We weren't the Sisterhood of Temple Sholom. We were the award-winning Sisterhood of Temple Sholom. The ramp in our sanctuary is not the ramp, it's the Sisterhood ramp. So those little things.
She makes it very clear.
Yes. And report cards, brag about yourself. And, you know, if you don't have the relationship with your clergy that you want to have, then sometimes you have to put out, you know, you have to give love to get love. So, you know, schedule meetings, find out what they want.
Yeah, figure out what they need.
Yeah.
In the last 5 years, I believe, once upon a time, our sisterhood was split. It was sisterhood, synagogue. Don't get involved. We slowly, over like 5 years, took us to get this place where we have the same domain, you know, where it's sisterhood at Temple Sholom. It's not sisterhood at a random Gmail. We made it very clear that, hey, we're a sisterhood with synagogue. We are under one umbrella. We support each other, and it was very clear. So speaking about money, if you don't have the money to throw into it, then, you know, take a year knowing like, okay, this current group, we're going to sacrifice another year, but this is the goal. Our goal is to focus on how do we support and build a relationship with the synagogue. And that is the efforts that we're going to do this year, so that as we let go, there's this continued, you know, then you can be advisors later, not on the board. It's okay if your board shrinks down to just an executive board. That's okay too. But like talking about the money aspect, you know, like, you know, I don't know where the legacy aspect of it, you know, you serve president for about like 4 years, and then their goal was kind of like, what can my legacy be to give back to the synagogue? So like there was the sisterhood ramp, because we have the aging demographic. One was updating all the serveware in the kitchen, getting a new oven for the kitchen, things that sisterhood used all the time that would benefit sisterhood, but also tremendously benefited the synagogue. So this year, you know, or we had money saved up for like renovating the leveling out the kids' playground in the backyard to rubber instead of wood chips everywhere. So then it was accessible for older generations, but now kids can safely play on the playground. Things like that, like where can you place specifically sisterhood money to support Temple? And our goal is anytime we do a large fundraiser for sisterhood, which is our fall fest, our goal is to give at least 60% or not 60, 40, close to 50% of that income to whatever Temple needed to fundraise for that year. Whether they needed it or not, just say, this is our gift. Like, let's do something together with this money. And, you know, people love to spend money. They'll find a place to put that money somewhere, or, you know, or something. So group 3, before we like totally go over, and thank you for staying.
We talked about the importance of the nominating committee getting started right away, and not just waiting until like right before it's time, but looking at the nominating and inviting new women to take on those little small jobs, and how that might help build those connections, you know, coming up with, you know, maybe being a greeter at an event, or having ways of, you know, will you help us deliver food? Will you help choose a restaurant for our next ladies' night out? something like that then builds those connections. Also finding ways to maybe in smaller groups get together, saying, hey, let's get together and have dinner. And we talked about how all the members can be, if you're a new member, you're automatically part of Sisterhood. And then you can choose to pay whatever you like. And often we're hoping that people will see what Sisterhood's doing, and because they're automatically a member and want to continue doing that. We also talked about the idea of changing the name of Sisterhood, because some people are put off by the idea of sisterhood, or even it being so gender-based, and figuring out ways to go around that. No solutions, but I know that you at Temple Sholom are also struggling and trying to figure out ways to deal with that. But that idea of how do we go about making it feel more welcoming, we discussed a little bit about that as well. So that's kind of the rough idea. I don't know, ladies that were in the group, anything else you want to add?
I have just a note here. I do like that you guys talk about trying to just kind of give little teaser tasks for people to do and see what their interest levels are. Again, really making it no pressure, planting out seeds. We talked about if you have 4 people show up to an event, it's not a fail. People showed up. Let the program run. More will show up next time. But if you let that become a negative and then you cancel the program, then the people that couldn't make it this time and wanted to come to another time won't show up. So even if you have 4 people, you've now built a really strong relationship with these 4 people. Don't worry about the other 15 that you wanted. Who cares about them? These little relationships are so important. And that also kind of what I want to transition to about when Annette and I were transitioning, one of our goals as co-presidents was to continue to have co-presidents throughout, not 1 year off, 1 year, whatever. And the goal was to clearly have a representation of our demographics. 1 younger person, 1 older person. Regardless of if the gap was even 5 years, there was still a demographic between the group. Whether, ideally a 10-year gap is cool, but it doesn't matter. You have someone that will represent the younger group and someone that will represent the older. And then as that transitions, the age will slowly shift down. Yeah. And I think that's really, really important for you guys to think about that, because then now you don't have, again, so right now we do have a transition of thinking who's going to replace Annette for the younger generation. It's a discussion that you'll have to have. And whoever comes into that position, say, don't worry, we will 100% support you, especially the younger people that come in, and you will have all the support and all of your ideas will be heard, but you are the face of this group, but you'll get all the support you need. And just know that you can just have a face that represents that group. And sure, they might not do anything, but things are running behind. Judy has something to say?
We moved into the co-presidency role as well. And so I was curious, do you and Annette break up duties, and do you share the meetings? How do you share the gavel?
So when Mary and I did it, we went through our list. We have a very defined list of duties that the president should be doing. And so we just split them up. At the time, I think you would send out the agenda, I would lead the meetings. We split up certain things that we did naturally anyway, although it was more like 70-30 on Mary's side.
I'm a heavy admin process person, so really do it based on skill set, but no, as here, you have to know okay, we've got to switch some things up, because eventually the person that was there before you will have to pick up the other stuff and be able to train the next person what to do. So Annette may not like to do all the agendas or whatever, but she has, it's part of your role.
Now I do them.
Share that task. And then, and does that answer your question, Judy? You just have to share it. But when you first start, give them everything that they're super comfortable doing. And then as they transition every 6 months or every year, you add on more so they get comfortable with that.
Jenny and I do. We split everything. Jenny and I just have, and we have a meeting. I mean, it's important to just communicate as much as possible. I would say, right, Jenny? We're really good at making sure that we talk every couple of weeks.
Well, we talk probably more often than that, but it's mostly just, and it's easier when we were able to bump into each other in person and have a 5-minute meeting in between things rather than having to set something up, which is what we'd have to do now. But yeah, we basically just, we divide it up, and it is very much on skill set. And there are things that I think both of us have taken on more naturally. I do feel like my role is very often to hear what the older members are saying, where they're uncomfortable, where they feel that they've lost power. I mean, really, that's a lot of it, where they feel they've lost power and influence, and to make sure that they feel heard. But that's not, I mean, it's not my only role, but that is, I think, something that makes sense to have an older person there. I mean, really, they'll phone me up and complain. That was part of what I'm there for, apparently. Anyway, but yes, we divide up tasks pretty
It is what
straightforwardly.
so funny. No one did that to Mary and I.
Yeah, and if they did, we made it clear, look, we made it very clear, like, this is the transition that needs to happen. We're going to listen to you, whether we can do anything about it or not. This transition has to happen. We got to let some parts die so we can bring the programs that you guys love so much back, but with a new look, with a new generation. We've also, I'm assuming most of you guys are at this point where, you know, most people agree they know something has to change. So letting them know this, we're making this change now, it's transitional. Bear with us as we make these changes. Share feedback with us as much as you can. So 2 things I wanted to point out was power. Power, everyone loves power. So when you let go of that power, it's really hard, especially for yourself, everyone in this group. It's super, super hard. You just gotta, you know, let go of that and just let some people take over, and be okay with what they do may not approve of you, but, you know, look at what is benefit for that. Oh my God, I love your hand, Evelyn. Okay, so I'll let Evelyn comment on that, and then I have one more thing about the younger generation. Evelyn?
I made these because I'm a teacher, and it really does help with when doing Zoom meetings, and because people don't know how to figure out where the things are on their screen, especially the generation that I come from. So this was very simple. Anyhow, I did say something, I gave a heads up in the newsletter that, you know, we are looking into changing our board, changing the thing, you know, that my term is coming up. Please think if you're wanting to be a part of us. And I focused the newsletter to the whole women in the congregation, from young to old. So, and that we would be you know, that the board will be the current board is going to be supportive and helping you transition into this role. We'll if we need to, but I mean, I gave them a heads up. That was this beginning of this term, and it really, you know, people had responded to that. They didn't say, oh, I would love to be in, you know, be on the board, but I got like little feelers. So I'm going to be going back to them, you know, and saying, oh,
and send it out again, like
yes,
every couple, like quarter or something. So
yes,
it's not like bombarding, but just planting the seed there. And then also what Annette and I like to do is reach out to the rabbis, say, hey, I know you guys are also doing your nomination. Do you have anyone that you know that might want to be involved on a less intense aspect and join us? Or you know someone that's going to become an empty nester soon. So that's one thing. Annette also is also a song leader, but she also is a B'nai tutor. And we are also in contact with a lot of parents that we know, like, hey, the empty nesters, those kids are going out of high school, going to university. We got to tap into those parents and build those relationships, because soon they're going to have nothing to do because their kids aren't around. So that is something you have to look at. What is your current demographic and how do you catch them before they're bored out of their mind? One other thing I want to mention that someone had brought up was, like, how do you engage the younger generation? Find someone that loves social media, or hire someone temporarily if you have the money for that. So one thing I did was, and I go to a lot of events, or I'm always at the synagogue, I was able to capture family photos of people. And so I started a series for about 2 years that every Shabbat on social media, I would take a picture of Sharon and her family and share one tip. And so every Friday it'd be like, meet Sharon and her family. And then next week would be meet Evelyn and her family. Of course, I go, hey, you know, Diana, are you okay if I take a picture of you and your family? I'm going to be sharing it through this on social media. So just let you know, everyone's going to see it. And it was a nice way, especially kind of as we transition into COVID. And before that, like, people could see, like, hey, I know that family. I never knew what their names were. And this is who it is. So now we have like 100 photos right now where everyone can look back to, and it, you know, has a little stickers of Annette, Kozicki family, or, you know, Stoller family, whatever it is, and whatever they wanted to share about themselves. So that was kind of like a cool project that we did on the side that we attached to our newsletter. So something like more visual or something for the younger generation to be like, oh, that's cool.
Visual's good.
Yeah.
Also, one of the most important things we talked about it. 1 second, Sky, is social action. I know you guys have to go, but social action, that is what women have always wanted to do. But if they have a very little bit of time to do something, social action makes them feel good. We headhunted our social action VP. She's our age. She has a kid who's same age as my son. She works at a rape crisis place down on our Lower East Side, which is where the majority of our homeless and like drug addiction is. And she is amazing, as you can imagine. She has a wealth of knowledge, and she is, so that's what I would say. Make sure that your social action is on point. They'll help you a lot.
And it's a good way. Think about when you're doing programs, what are those programs outside of your synagogue walls? So like that social aspect thing works really well. Or like even doing like a beach cleanup day or a canned food drive for the Family Jewish Services or, you know, your federation. What kind of collecting toys, getting young families from Sunday school. We do this for Hanukkah every year, where around October or like 2 months before Hanukkah, we send out a list saying, you know, let's collect toys that we will wrap up and then donate so that, you know, the family services can give toys away, Hanukkah toys for other families out there, things like that. I think we'll wrap it up. Whoever wants a copy of the slides can do that. Annette, I will copy and paste or Annette, if you want in the chat, write your email down if anyone wants to email, but I'm sure you guys can, basically it's either Mary or Annette at Temple Sholom, and you guys can reach us. If you need anything, please reach out. We will answer your questions. Any copies of our agendas to program planning for any of the events or anything, you can find me on social media. I can give you my cell phone if you want, and if you want to message me, I'll give it to you right now. And you want to text with me or whatever, whatever support you guys need, like Annette and I are here for you. And,
totally.
And biggest thing, let go, and it's okay if nothing happens. Like
it'll be fine.
Happen. Yeah. So when you let nothing happen for a while, you kind of start seeing what were the challenges or what blooms out of the craziness. And
who steps up.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll stop talking. We're very passionate. Okay, well, thanks so much for coming. Jackie, thank you. And Carol has already gone, but Jackie, thank you so much for your tech support. And thank you, Carol, wherever you are.
I think she left because they were hopping into their lunch. So actually kind of worked out that lunch happening. But if anyone wants to stay, I guess we have this room. If you have any questions, you can ask or chat a little bit more. I can stay a little bit longer. My kids are not killing each other downstairs. But if you need anything, please, you know, we're here and
reach out. Yeah.
Reach out.
Mary and Annette, I just want to say thank you. This was excellent. So I'm very impressed with what you've done at your temple.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay. Well,
all right. Yeah.
Oh, you all at the lunch.
Yeah. So whoever wants to leave can leave, but I think Evelyn had a hand up there.
Yeah, I have a question. You know, we were talking about let it go. So when I was, I guess Bobby, the president that found me, evidently she was really worried that our sisterhood would be floundering, and that's how I got involved. And now I'm at that state where I got to let it go.
Yeah.
And but then what do you do when you let it go? We have our own checking account and all that, and it's like so stuck with Shul Cloud, and there's so many. Do you let it go? But then what do you do? You know, I mean,
yeah.
Do you really let it go, or do you just sort of like, what's happening? You know,
I think you would kind of let it go publicly, slightly, you know, and kind of see like where that goes. Sorry, let it go more as like just be. It's okay to be a little quiet, saying, hey, you know, we're just gonna be a little quiet. Let them know we're gonna be a little quiet. You know, don't like kind of like vacation notice on your email. Like
Yeah.
we're
Right. We're under construction or
Yeah,
something.
We're
like
looking
that.
for a new board under construction.
Yeah.
But you can still continue to donate because we do have a donate button. We still have
That's right.
Facebook.
Yeah.
I mean, we got everything going per se. It's just that we don't have any way to follow through with the next board, the next person.
Yeah.
And you know
I
what?
mean?
And it's
Like,
okay
the
too.
next
Like as long as
whatever.
you have some people to like are okay to just like let it monitor, but like let it go as in like don't develop new programming that takes lots of energy. Just
Right.
stay stagnant where you're at. And then when something pops up, handle it. But if not, then just kind of let it coast for a little bit.
Okay.
Leave the accounts as is, send out an email once in a while, and then see what happens. Because we were kind of like that at one point where it was just like newsletters were getting super boring, nothing on social media. You know what I mean?
If they didn't have us on board though, like if you don't already have young people, I can imagine that it's super scary. So I think that like that would be the first thing that I would be looking for is like who, even if it's just one person, to just get a younger face on there really is like so crucial. It really starts to attract, because then they're like, oh, sisterhood could be for me too.
Yeah.
So
There's a couple people that are I'm keeping my fingers crossed that they would step up. Like I was telling you, there's a young lady that I work with, and she's like 10 or 15 years younger than me.
Yeah.
And then there's another one who just went on the board of our temple, and she's in education. So I'm really trying to work with her to encourage her to, her position will probably end when my position ends, to just step over. And since she has the knowledge of the young families. And the other thing of our temples is so small that our school, we only have like we have 15 kids in Havaya and about 10 kids, it's not big, and not all of them are families that are Jewish families. Our preschool doesn't have, the only Jewish families are a rabbi who has 3 children, and and so there's very few that are Jewish. But my thing was, or this is how I thought, is that if someone wants to join Sisterhood who's not Jewish, why not? I have a Catholic person who loves playing mahjong. She joined Sisterhood just because she wants to be involved, and she's been able to donate money to our kitchen things. And I didn't care if she was Catholic or not. We have people that are Catholic that are on our Torah study, but still, we're not growing our temple that way. You know what I mean? And
yeah, it's tricky.
It is. It's really a challenge.
So one thing I want to mention that I heard in there, and something Annette talked about, was passionate people and social action. So think about what are the trends happening in your city. Okay, so for example,
area.
We had a big like environmental period where like climate change, whatever, and then we had the whole racism stuff or like marches and things like that. So think about what are the things that are kind of trending in your news that people are really passionate about. And if you say, hey, Sisterhood wants to do a talk about, I'm making it up, climate change.
Or indigenous rights or stuff like that. Like I guess they're called Native Americans.
You'll see people that will be like, hey, I'm interested, or hey, I do this talk. And then you start doing these little talks, whether people show up or not. Doing it on Zoom is great. People show up or they don't. Perfect. And then you can do like, if you do want to do an admission, go like it's $5 to sign up, just so there's something, or just do it's free, put a donation. Some people give $36, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this way you could kind of pay the speaker like $100 or whatever it is, or 150 or whatever you guys do. And then you slowly lure people in with their passion. So like, and then thinking outside of like, what are those things? You know what I mean? And that might help. So something to consider about.
Yeah. And the rebranding is so important. Like it's a really tricky thing to start talking about gender roles and how do we like reword our constitutions or even like rebrand ourselves. It's a really tricky thing. But I think that starting that process and having your mind open to it is really attractive to the younger generation, because they want to feel included, and they want to be with women who are with people who care. Right. And sometimes it seems like an older, like even my mom, she's like, I'm not good at saying they and them. And, it makes her uncomfortable. So then she's not trying so hard to do it. But it's not because she's hating on it. It's like she's just uncomfortable. It's new. It's not. So showing that you're going out of your comfort zone, I think, and trying to like be as inclusive as possible is huge.
Mm-hmm. It is huge.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for all that insight, and I'll bring it back to my sisterhood board, and we'll put our heads together and see if we have Mitzvah Day coming with our temple. Our rabbi is very involved, and we're excited about his involvement. His wife is not involved in sisterhood. I can't get her in there, and she's really, it would be really nice if she could join us, but we're going to work with it and just see if we can get something going and get the motivation again.
One way we've found is to honor the person, like just throw a tea in her honor or something like that, and get her to come speak.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Love of
and I'm also going to throw it out there too, to get whoever's like in charge of this event to put it out there. I'm willing to do it, whether Annette wants to or not join me. But if you guys ever want us to come to a board meeting, I'm happy to shave out some time and just like have a discussion with you guys.
She just froze, but I understand. Yeah. That'd be great. I'd be calling you definitely. That's a great idea. Just to get another perspective from another sisterhood in our district. You know, I mean, we have such a wonderful group of ladies from all, 59 sisterhoods. You'd think that, or individual members too, that we have so much to offer, and it's great to hear it from people. And maybe say, hey, look, we're all together in this. This is why we're in part of WRJ, because we're supporting one another.
Maybe that's something they could do. Yeah.
Got to get that through their heads too. You know what I mean? Exactly. We're not alone. We're not alone. Exactly. We got everybody helping us. That's a great idea. Thank you so much, Annette, for all that. I appreciate it. I'm going to go.
Yeah, enjoy your lunch. Later. Bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Bye.
Jackie.
Thank you again.
No problem.